Hello, everyone. My name is Zak Butler, and I am a member of Threat Analysis Group, or TAG, over at Google. As you may have seen in one of my colleagues' presentations this morning, government-backed information operations are one of the many things that we investigate. And so today, I'm going to be talking about RT's efforts to conduct covert information operations. Now, if you're in this room, you probably know what RT is, but to very quickly recap, RT is a Russian state-controlled media outlet. They have their own TV channels, websites, and social media presence. Their intention is to reach a global audience outside of Russia in multiple languages. They've been widely described as a propaganda outlet, and ultimately, RT is serving the strategic goals of the Russian state. Now, RT has a big problem. For about a decade, they've been getting banned outside of Russia. In 2014, they were banned in Ukraine, and note that this coincides with Russia's invasion of Crimea. In 2020, they were banned in Latvia and Lithuania. In 2022, Canada, EU, Germany. And just this year, the US government levied official sanctions against RT. Now, these are official government actions. Throughout this timeline, RT has also been getting removed from private services like cable and satellite television providers and internet video hosts, sometimes before official government action was taken. The takeaway is really obvious. It is hard to propagandize an audience that isn't watching, and RT needs their audience back. So, how do you regain your audience when you're banned? Well, step one is to mask your brands. Isn't that great? I'm incredibly proud of that animation. If things don't work out on TAG, I figure I can get a job over at Pixar. Okay, so RT does this by creating new outlets, and these are new brands with absolutely no mention of affiliation with RT. They combine this with classic technical masking techniques everyone here is going to be familiar with. This is basic stuff like hiding your geolocation with a VPN. These new outlets are then staffed with both old and new operators. Existing RT staff are used, presumably, because they're the easiest to get. They already work for RT, and they already know how to make professional quality content. Sometimes RT hires local support staff. And when I say local here, what I mean is local as in from the same place as the target audience. These people bring expertise in culture and language, and they have plausible deniability. These people genuinely may not know that they are ultimately working for Russian state media. Finally, they sometimes have local talent appear on camera. These people bring authenticity, they bring pre-existing audiences, and again, they have plausible deniability. These people might be hired, or their content may simply be co-opted and reposted. Step two is to repackage the old message. Now, of course, the ultimate goal of the messages are to defend Russia and weaken her enemies. And broadly speaking, there are three categories of content that we see in use on their proxy brands. One, documentaries and TV-style news programs. And it makes a lot of sense that RT would use this style of content. These are the kinds of programs that are already being broadcast on overt RT brands, and producing them is RT's forte. They have years of experience making good-looking, professional quality programs which directly push their desired narratives. Two, we have social media fluff. This is apolitical, non-strategic content which appeals to a broad audience. This is content like silly dances or pranks gone wrong or really anything which will briefly command attention, often delivered via short-form video. Critically, this content keeps an audience engaged with the brand so that when there is a strategically useful narrative to deliver, it can be dropped into that same feed for the existing audience to consume. And I do want to note that in one of the presentations we saw earlier, they mentioned something very similar. And so that tells me that this is a TTP that's used by more than just RT. This appears to be in broad use. Finally, RT co-ops existing ideologically aligned influencers. The tactic here is really simple. Take the content from that influencer and post it on the Covert brand. Regardless of whether the influencers permit or even want their content used in this way, It's a useful way for RT to co-opt their message and appeal to their audience. All right, it's example time. I know you want examples, and so let's talk about examples of the 3 types of content that I just mentioned. Example number 1 for documentaries, we have Dig Deep Documentary. That's the Covert brand in use here. It targets an English-speaking audience with TV quality, high production value content in a classic RT style. In fact, the content here is so classic RT that some of the content is literally just RT videos with the RT watermark removed. They also deliver a bunch of anti-Ukrainian messaging in their documentaries. For example, accusing Ukraine of deliberately shelling civilians in the current war. And another documentary attempts to justify Russia's invasion of Ukraine by linking Ukraine to the history of fascism, asserting Ukraine is a fascist state, and asserting that Russia is engaged in denazification. But not everything is about Ukraine. Some messaging is pro-Russian or tries to win sympathy for Russia with claims that Russians are being victimized throughout the world. For example, this video claims it is not safe to speak Russian in the EU and that Russians are routinely abused and assaulted there. I mentioned social media fluff with occasional strategic messages thrown into the feed. An example brand here is called Hotspot. This is a general interest brand targeting English speakers. It uses other people's footage of basically whatever happens to be popular on social media right now, with text overlays and machine-generated voiceovers. The videos are mostly short-form content. An example of fluff-type content is a video of wreckage from the Titan submersible on the ocean floor. This is apolitical. It serves no strategic messaging purpose. It's here only to keep the audience's attention until a more useful narrative is ready to go. And so strategically useful messages often purport to be news clips with little or no context. In addition to contemporary news, useful narratives can also be taken from the past. For example, here is an old video of an ex-CIA officer criticizing the agency. He asserts that the agency sometimes targets the US public and doesn't present its activities honestly, especially during the Vietnam War. A narrative like this is likely intended to increase distrust in the US government. Though the footage is old, trust in government remains a hot-button issue today, and any footage of a former government official criticizing the US can be strategically valuable to RT. The final content type is content from existing influencers, and here the example brand is called Ketchup. It once again targets English speakers, and it prominently features videos from several ideologically aligned influencers talking about US politics. Our first content example is manipulated video deceptively edited to look embarrassing for prominent public figures. Kamala Harris is one example victim. In short, the host takes authentic footage of the victim from interviews on, say, The View or some traditional news program, then edits the footage to insert himself into the video, giving the false appearance that he was also on the program at the same time. The false host then poses questions to the interviewee and deceptively edits their responses from the original interview to give the appearance that they are incompetent or bumbling or simply giving terrible answers. Sometimes these videos self-label as satire, but not always. And judging by the comments, the audience quite often thinks that these are authentic. Our second content example is reposting classic political influencer talking head style content. These are videos where an influencer is simply looking directly into the camera and giving their take on recent news items. Ketchup featured content following current events and, as stated earlier, from a perspective ideologically aligned with RT's messaging goals. So, let's recap. RT has been banned in a lot of places. They're losing their audience and they want it back. Since they can't return under the existing RT brand, they're covertly returning to the platforms which have banned them, using brands which do not reveal their affiliation with RT. And if they get discovered and kicked off the platform, they come back with yet another new brand. These brands package RT's old messaging using classic RT-style programming and also use contemporary social media styling and influencers. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I appreciate it.